G'day guys, Mike with the Outer Circle. In today's episode, we're going to be looking at all these new Blood Angels reveals that have come out today. The Sanguinor, the Sanguinary Guard, and oh, hang on a minute. Let's talk about Codex and his Codex Imperial agents. Okay, so here's the thing. I had nothing good to say about this model, so I just sat on it for a while. I didn't want to record anything particular because I didn't want to be too much of a negative Nancy. You know, last month I've been very busy anyway. I'm finishing off a diploma and a few other things on the side. That's not important. What is important here is that this model is awful. Now, we can make a lot of jokes about, you know, the armor, the chunky pants, things like that. But really what it boils down to is I think, but I can't confirm, this is just a fat Stormcast Eternal. Because his armor and the sort of more organic shapes in the legs of the power armor, it looks like a Stormcast Eternal's armor, but just like stretched and dragged and malformed in a 3D sculpting tool. It doesn't look like power armor that was modified into this shape. I don't think it was. But it's hideous. The fur is... well, it's awful, but I mean, that's always a sacrifice. Like, fur is very hard to mold really well in plastic, especially these characters and the very small sprue they want to use and the way they want to lay out their parts, because they like to have a front half of torso, rear half of torso, which makes, you know, the fur ends up usually, like you can see on the back of his neck or over the top of his shoulder. They're clear, like you can see the pieces. They're not seamless. You can clearly tell where the different sections of fur that overlap are. And because of that, you know, there are limitations to what you can make. But what they've made is not good. But you already all knew that. I mean, the face is hideous. It doesn't look like an Inquisitor, regular human who's, you know, had a few treatments to stay alive for longer. He looks like a Space Marine's head. Very tiny beady eyes, very big, brutish, thuggish head that looks like he's had his nose broken and squashed flat a few too many times. What are these symbols of the old miniature are missing? It's a very, very straight downgrade as a miniature. But the eagle is kind of cool, so, you know, there's that. But yeah, what an awful reimagining of a classic character when all you have to do is literally recreate the same character, same pose, just a bit bigger. Now, remember what I just said there about taking the same character, same pose, a little bit bigger, and then throw it out the window because we're going to talk about, well, we've got some Blood Angels. We have Lamarties and we've got Astarath. So where do I want to start? Let's go with Lamarties. So Lamarty's angry pose here with the open mouth, I just don't know how I feel about it. Like with anything, in his Primaris upscaling, everything gets upscaled, right? Like larger weapons, all that kind of thing. It's alright. I actually don't hate it. I really do dislike the Primaris jump packs. I think the original jump packs are fine for 40k. The old ones we had for like 2-3 decades were pretty good. The Heresy Mark IVs are beautiful, which first came out on the Sanguinary Guard in 5th edition for 40k, funny enough. And the Mark II jump packs look really great as well. In fact, I also like the Chaos Raptor ones, the 3.5 era white metal Raptor jump packs. They were really cool as well. These Primaris ones do nothing for me. They don't look like a natural extension of the Marines jump pack. Like, it always felt like a regular power pack on the back of a Marine had like nacelles added onto it in the case of the other jump packs. This feels like a totally different design. It doesn't make the miniature better or worse for it. It's just personal preferences. I liked it when it looked like it was almost like it was something they slung over the top of their regular power packs to give them more mobility. Here, it's like a different piece of equipment. It doesn't look as bolted on, I guess is what I'm saying. Now, miniature-wise, he's fine. Astarath, the face is not great. It looks very more like a Stormcast Eternal's face again, because I think they upcycle Because fuck, why draw something from scratch when you got something that's close enough already sitting in your bank of files? But it's the pose itself that's got a bit of an issue. I mean, he had to have the tactical rock. You were never getting away from a character not on a tactical rock. Games Workshop is just wedded to it at this point. It needs to feel more dynamic. It's poetry, it rhymes. But on the old Astrath, he doesn't have... He's holding the axe above his head, but his arms are more like his left arm in this image, right side of the screen, that is, where it's not completely vertical above his head. Because what it looks like with that right arm, it's too vertical. Now, I know human anatomy can bend to these angles. Space Marine probably can too, but it looks wrong. It just looks wrong. It looks like when a person is kit bashing a Space Marine and they just glue the arm on in just the wrong position. It looks like that. Like, it's, I don't know, 15, 20 degrees higher in rotation than it really should be to work for the model. You know, and it's a matter of personal taste, that perspective, but it just looks way too highly pivoted around, and the way that it's glued and the sort of dark slot you see here, it almost looks like it's, you know, fallen off the miniature and just been glued back on at the wrong angle or something. Just something looks wrong about it. A Space Marine, as a rule, should never have his pauldron pointing exactly down at the ground. I think that should be a design rule that we stick to, because, you know, if the armor is that amount of flexible, it doesn't really sell the single solid piece of power armor or Astartes artificer armor that it's supposed to be, I think. I don't know what... It's a range of conditions going at once here, but a Marine shouldn't have that level of flexibility, I don't feel. And I think it does let the sculpt down quite a bit. Now, the bit you're all waiting for. Alright, so I'm going to save the Sanguinor for last. Sanguinary Guard. These boys, Death Mask looks straight out of Age of Sigmar. Like, the big fat flat noses, they don't look like the angelic Death Masks of the previous edition. In fact, they are significant downgrade in sculpting quality on those. The torsos, very angular, the pectorals and such, not as smooth and organic feeling. Because it's supposed to be that Blood Angel's armor was like a work of art. You know, these the Blood Angels pride themselves on wrought artificer works that they'd spent centuries, you know, beautifying, and these don't feel like it. And I think this is really exemplified in the legs, which are just very, very lazy. I really want to emphasize that, because they are just Primaris Assault Marine legs, and they've just put little notches into the exact same power armor. Now, the old Sanguinary Guard were very different to that. They were hand sculpted still. They were one of the last sort of hand sculpted kits, I think. And because of that, they had a lot more organic curves and lines to the shape of their power armor. I mean, these still have those little ankle balls on all of the Marines. They've still got the upper leg tassets, those little like thigh pieces with the two little slots on each leg. Like, they're just straight up the power armor regular Primaris Marines with just the barest... It's like, what is the most minimal amount of work you can do to standard legs off Assault Marines to make them into Sanguinary Guard? It's like, this is it. Just cut 2 slots in each shin and call it a day. Just lazy. Especially when they show on the Sanguinor, oh no, we can put the effort in to give them those sort of nice legs. Then you got the posing. So this dude on the right-hand side, especially from this angle that the camera shot him at, that just looks like someone took a regular miniature and then cut it in Photoshop and just rotated it like 15 degrees to the left. And then just said, yep, that'll do. And that's like, you know, when a person has a regular Space Marine, you know, that's built to have 2 feet on the ground, and then they just sort of tilt him on the base so they can put a tactical rock under his foot, and now his feet just sort of sit awkward. He's not really posed correctly because, well, they didn't repose him, they just tilted him. That's what that guy looks like. It looks just tilted. It doesn't look right, but they had to put them on tactical rocks. How else could you represent that these guys are floating through the air if they weren't on tactical rocks? Paint job, I'm not even going to talk about. It's irrelevant to the sculpting. These little winglets on the back, so they've lost their sanguinary wings and gained these shitty little winglets. But you had the wings still. You had them on Sanguinor and Asterath. Okay, they look worse on Sanguinor and Asterath, but you had them. These little winglets look terrible. They look like a Dark Angel's raven wing, like little tassets, something that would be on the legs of a Dark Angel's Terminator or something, or on the side of a raven wing bike. The fact that they've just got them on these little ball mounts on the back of the jump packs just looks shit. That's the word, shit. And they've still kept the wrist-mounted bolt pistols, but then the handheld fusion pistol? Make up your mind. What do you want it to be? Like, is it in the way more when it's held in the hand? Well, then why isn't it on the wrist? I don't even know sometimes what the thought process is. But they look pretty trash to me. They just seem like, what is the bare minimum effort that we need to do to make some Primaris Marines? Let's use some Age of Sigmar head sculpts, tweak them a little bit, call them power armor, just slap the face of a Stormcast Eternal onto a Mark 4, a Mark 10 Primaris helmet, blend the two meshes together, call it a day, and cut some slots out in the legs, call that a day. They look shit. They look legit shit compared to the old ones. And that seems really harsh. Right now, some listeners going, that's really unfair, Macca. I like these new sculpts. Well, cool, you do you. But what I'm getting at is we have all of the modern computing technology, digital tools that allow us, without even setting a single physical thing on the ground, digital tools that allow us to fully envisage and feel out a miniature prior to creating it as a physical item. We can infinitely pose and repose and tweak and modify and blend and change scales, put in alternate weapons, all these things that was so restrictive to the sculptors of the past, where the sculptors of the past had a physical medium and every single change they made was permanent, or some degree of, we'll call it long-term temporary or something, I don't know. But they had to physically make every single change. If they didn't like the shape of a bolter, they had to cut it apart or add more stuff on and completely rework it. Here, you don't have to go through that. You can cut, paste, use existing assets, and then go to town re-sculpting, making new sculpts, whatever it might be. So we have the ability to produce these amazing detailed designs with all this computing technology, and yet the sculpts that are 20 years older, that were more than 20 years older, well, are they? I don't know, probably about 15 years old. Right? They could take other sculpts 15 years ago by hand and make something that had a lot more personality and felt less like it was just a cut paste of an existing Marine unit. If you had these miniatures and you got rid of the six-pack abs on their armor, you really wouldn't think that they were too dissimilar to regular Primaris Marines, I don't think. They got the same knees, they got the same upper thighs, they got the same lower thighs, they got the little balls on the ankles, the feet themselves are unchanged. All they've done is just cut those tiny little slots into the front of the shins and on the upper thighs. And it's not really enough, in my opinion. Then we'll go to the Sanguinor, because there's a crime committed here. And that crime is, and the question I want to pose to all of you today, is when did he cross the Rubicon? The Sanguinor is from essentially the Horus Heresy era. Why is he now Primaris Marine? Upscaled, and then new armor with these new winglets, this new Primaris Marine jump pack. It's not a Mark 4 jump pack, it's a very Primaris Marine jump pack. Why? Couldn't you have just stuck with the original design, the original Mark IV backpack, gone for an actual Heresy armor, Heresy feel, because that's the character's background. He does not evolve with the times. He's not he is not the entity, he's not getting the Rubicon treatment, as it were. And if he is, that's an awful retcon. He is more like Legion of the Damned. To change it is to change some fundamentals about the character. And really, all I would have done is just upscale him ever so slightly, because he's like, you can go much bigger than the old miniature. It's not like he's ever going to be on the same tabletop as him. But you just go to the Primaris scale. You don't need to make him more look like a Primaris Marine, which is essentially what they did here. And I just don't think that works for him. Overall, things like the sword, it's fine. It just has like trivial details that don't make the miniature better, that he has them, like this little swirly shit on the blade, or these two little pieces sticking up out of the crossguard, or this like traditional crossguard underneath the winged one. Like, pick a fucking style, pick a design. There's 3 crossguards that look like they were just all merged together because no one could decide what they wanted. Like pick a design. And I don't know, it's just little things like that go into a model that like you can see a lot of potential in. You go, yeah, this was probably a really nice looking model. It was going to be like a 9 out of 10 at some point. But the problem is they put too much crap into it, too much stuff, and it doesn't look as good. And then you got things like the hair. So it's like they're going for the full death mask with the sculpted hair, but the sculpted hair looks awful. On top of the mask, there's big like flat sections with a few ribs. The old one had like proper sculpted hair. Again, limitations of the mold and the manufacturing process can be called into play here, but still, this is going to be a premium model at a very premium price, right? So do it justice. As I said, hate the jump pack. That's the thing that really rips it away from its Heresy origins more than anything. But since they did the wings for it, why couldn't they have used those same wings on the Sanguinary Guard? Probably because they didn't know where to put them, because they're using regular Assault Intercessor jump packs, and the fucking engines are in the way of where you would mount the wings, so that's why they went to those little balls on the back side of it, because they went, shit, we've got nowhere to put the wings. They're probably not that iconic, let's just ditch the wings. Yeah, this is what you get. This is the result. This is lazy. And at least in the case of the Sanguinor, they did it. They sculpted the nice, more organic looking, like 6-pack and that very Greek phalanx style, armor that we think of, like the sculpted learner thorax armor. They did that, and then they could not be fucked. Like, all they had to do was take the Sanguinor, take the basic model, use those like legs and torso. Just ignore what's on his belt and the little purity seal wrapped around his thigh. Take the torso and legs, repose it for these guys, and then add on their belts with their, grenade pouches and shit, and their little, the little tabard cloth that's hanging down. And you would have had the right torso. It would have been perfect. It would have looked so cool, because to me, this is what the point I really want to stress is, with the modern manufacturing and design processes that are available to a company like Games Workshop, they should be producing Sanguinary Guard that are on par with this Sanguinor in quality and style. And what they've produced are what a person at home could have kit bashed out of regular Assault Intercessors. There is nothing unique enough about this squad where it's like, fuck, if Games Workshop did not make this for me, I could not make it. That's the point I want to stress, okay? It's not that, if you took these models back 10 years, people would think they were some of the best models ever sculpted, probably. But that was 10 years ago. This is today. And today, these are very underwhelming. And that's across the board. And, oh boy, is that across the board. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm back with the Outer Circle. Thank you for watching, and please leave your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. And if you like them, totally cool with it. It's not going to ruin my day for you to disagree with me and say, Mackie, you know what? I think they look awesome and I'm going to buy 10 sets. You do you. I'm just holding to my standard, okay? If you're happy with the standard that they're producing and, you think this is what's really going to carry the company long term, you do you, man. Or woman, I don't care. But, yeah, for me personally, yeah, let's call this a pretty pathetic set of releases. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle, and I'll catch you on the next video.